Hey guys, welcome to our roundtable discussion where we will be going through a few popular health and wellness myths and debunking some hot topics. I'm Eileen, I'm an herbalist and a nutritional therapist.
I'm Amy, I'm also an herbalist and nutritional therapist.
And I am Karen, I am a registered dietitian. So let's get started.
Many people believe that an increase in exercise and a decrease in food consumption is the way to lose weight and stay healthy. Is there any truth in that? And if so, why? What are your thoughts?
This is a pretty good question, I think, because there is some validity to it. Of course, being a little bit in deficit will help to lose weight, but I think as a culture, we kind of take things too far, and this is one where it goes too far pretty fast.
I agree. I think this is a belief that has been carried on for many years, and the truth is, physiologically, when your body's under stress, it is going to want to hold on to fat. And so by depriving your body of necessary nutrients, you're going to send all sorts of stress hormones that tell your body, I'm scared, we're in danger, pack on fat. So it's kind of counterintuitive. And then it just makes you feel awful because you're starving and not gaining or not losing weight.
No, I agree. I think in today's world, a lot of people think that when they exercise, then they can overeat. And, you know, a lot of the times people aren't burning as many calories when they're exercising as they think they are. And therefore, it's not creating that calorie deficit, or they're not nourishing their body appropriately. And so, you know, I think there is a lot of myths around exercise these days.
Yeah. Well, that raises a good point, too. Sorry. Because there is this belief that when you exercise a lot, you're exercising to burn calories. But the fact of the matter is we want to exercise to gain muscle mass, and muscle mass is what helps us long-term be more efficient with how we burn calories and improve our metabolism. Not so much exercising to burn like 100 calories, which is just silly.
Well, yeah, and I think also the point is that there's a difference between being 100 to 200 calories in deficit to lose weight in a healthy way versus being, 1,000 calories deficit. I think we think less is more is more. If we do the thing that we're trying to do harder, we'll get results faster. But like you're saying, the opposite could happen. In fact, while we're exercising, it's really important that we nourish our bodies fully, especially protein. I mean, if you're exercising, getting somewhere between 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of weight is really important so that you're replenishing your muscles, you're keeping satiated,
right?
You're not going to overeat on accident.
And a lot of times when I think it's a good rule of thumb just to track your macronutrients for a day or two just to see where you fall in the range, because I know for myself when I did it with clients, tracking your macros, you think, oh, I'm easily hitting 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And then they look at it and it's like, I ate 3 meals a day and I got like 40 grams per kilogram, which would be enough for like a child.
Or we skip breakfast or we skip lunch. Yeah,
those are all really good points. I think a lot of times people can do morning workouts and forget to eat breakfast, but it's important to nourish our bodies before exercise. And then like you said, to the protein point, we want to make sure we're intaking enough protein because we don't want to burn our muscle mass for energy. And so we want to burn our carbs and then our fat sources before we burn our muscle mass.
Yeah, I think the whole goal is just to have a consistent state of energy balance to both promote calmness and safety in the body and to support insulin response and to conserve brain and muscle tissue.
Yeah, exercise too isn't just about weight loss. It's all about, having a healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit. And so it does a whole bunch of other things for us. These days.
I agree.
On to the topic of bad diets and yo-yo dieting. What dangers come along with these? Why don't they last? And can they be harmful long term?
Good question. I mean, I think overall, the human body just does not like extremes. And so yo-yo dieting, it has that term because you will just go from one extreme to the next as your body's attempting to find balance. And in that process, you're using and just running through a lot of critical hormones and materials and minerals. So it's highly stressful in general. Yo-yo dieting is not the best for a sustainable diet plan.
Definitely. I think they're all like quick fixes too. Don't focus on that habit forming relationship that we need with food, exercise, just, relationship with each other. And so I think it's, important to note that fad diets a lot of times are just that quick fix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that they really promote an understanding of what you need to eat for yourself, because everyone is so different. And with a yo-yo diet or the fad diet, it's just this list of what you cannot eat. This is good, this is bad. It's so dichotomous, and there's not really any leniency to be able to incorporate foods that you love or like go out with your friends and enjoy a day. And, and that stress also contributes to, I think, the failure of fad diets.
Well, and that raises a good point too, because the fact that you can drop weight so quickly makes them very alluring, but it's very, very bad and stressful for the body to lose weight that rapidly. A lot of that weight that people experience early on in fad diets too, it's just water weight if you have a lot of fat stored as like glycogen or carbohydrate. So you get excited, but you're just losing water weight. And then when you do actually start oxidizing fat, I mean, that's where our body sequesters a lot of toxins. So to lose all those toxins really rapidly can put a lot of stress on our detox organs, our liver, our kidneys. So you really don't want to be losing more than, a half a pound to 1 pound of weight a week to sustainably do it without stressing your body out.
Right, yeah, and I'm sure that it can also lead to a lot of inflammation and a lot of perhaps mental fatigue, also joint issues. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's a good long-term kind of option.
No, not a fan.
Yeah, I think we all can agree, right? Moderation is key.
Yes, exactly. Like 80-20 lifestyles, I think probably the best option.
Agreed.
Hormone health is a very hot button issue, and it has been for the past several years. What are some misconceptions surrounding this, and how can people better support their hormone health?
Well, I definitely think the first misconception is that hormones are just sex hormones, and we have so many different types of hormones in our bodies that play so many different roles.
That's a good point. Yeah, I remember being very fascinated to learn that neurotransmitters are technically hormones, because a hormone is just anything in your body delivering a message to another part of the body. And the complicated thing about hormones, I think, going off of that misconception, is that they're all so intimately interrelated. So when you start messing with one, all these other guys feel it too. And we tend to look at hormones in a very myopic sort of view, and it's the whole body is ruled by messenger hormones.
Yeah, I think on top of that, maybe we also look at hormones as something to be, managed, muted, or manipulated, because we take, a hormone to suppress hunger. We take a hormone to try and suppress a menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
And I mean, from TRT to HRT, there's so many things that we're trying to supplement hormones with.
You just start pulling on the strings, and then all these other things go wrong. I think from our perspective, a more holistic kind of understanding of the body being this ecosystem is that if you want to get your hormones right, you really need to nourish the organs that create the hormones, your endocrine organs, your liver, and then also support the organs that are responsible for clearing those hormones. I think a lot of the issues that arise, it's not because someone needs to supplement or start taking another hormone. They just have a really cluttered liver that can't deconjugate, do what it needs to do for hormones. Maybe there's bacteria in the gut that cause the recirculation of some hormones, which is so common with estrogen. It can get recycled if we have certain overgrowths of bacteria in our gut. So it really, to me, the misconception of that is just that we're not looking at the body as a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, people having a healthy balance of macronutrients too really helps in how we produce hormones, how we regulate them, how we balance them. And so just looking at our diet in whole is definitely important.
Right.
Yeah, both macronutrients. I mean, fats is huge when it does come to sex hormones, but then also minerals, because minerals are needed to both create and break down several different types of hormones in the liver. So like magnesium and getting fresh whole foods is really just maybe one of the best things that you can do to support hormone regulation.
Yeah, the mineral is a good point, because so many of us are literally energized by our stress hormones, and our stress hormones are called mineral corticoids for a reason. They require a lot of minerals, and our body will start pulling minerals from our hair, our teeth, our bones in order to create these stress hormones. And that's why when a lot of us, when we're stressed, we feel haggard, we feel dull. It's because you're sending all your precious minerals to make these stress hormones. So I think it's really important in the modern world too to start looking at hormones in the sense of how they're impacting your stress, and where we're telling our body to allot different nutrients, because stress hormones are costly to make.
Yeah, I think that brings up the point too where people just can't lose weight because now our body's in a stress state, and therefore they just hold on to all that excess fat, and we're not able to kind of drop drop the number on the scale, I guess,
Right.
if that's what we're looking to do. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's stress everywhere. I mean, especially in a toxic environment, there have been so many, several cleaners and different chemicals that have a direct correlation to hormone health and congestion in the liver, too.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times when those certain pollutants, the toxicants you're talking about, a lot of times when they're put into a product and it's called safe, what's not taken into account is all the other products we're exposed to as well, on top of diesel fumes and gasoline fumes and air fresheners, all of it compounded. It really does mess with our hormones.
Yeah, or even mixed up into the same product.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you or someone you know has ever suffered from any stomach issues. So this is another question we receive a lot around the topic of gut health. So what are some misconceptions around your gut health, and how can people better support their gut?
Nice. That's a good one. That's a big one. Well, first of all, I feel like gut, we should define it as your digestive system along with your microbiome. And so I think the biggest misconception is that people sometimes perceive that your gut is just for digestion, when in actuality, it's the center of our very being. It dictates every single aspect of who we are as living, breathing individuals. Mood is hugely influenced by the gut, our immunity, the fact that the large majority of many neurotransmitters and hormones are manufactured in the gut. Eating processed food can alter that microbiome, making us more susceptible to illness or disease. So it's a whole big topic.
Yeah, I kind of want to touch on mood there because it's kind of like your second brain, the gut. You know, there's such a close connection to the gut and to the brain. And the access, when it goes off, then, I mean, you can see things like Alzheimer's and autism and, just brain fog. I think a lot of times when I have issues with my gut, brain fog is the first thing, or forgetfulness, which happens all the time. I mean, there's a nerve in our gut called the vagal nerve, and when that isn't communicating correctly with our brain, then things can go a little bit off.
Right, like 70% of serotonin, I know for sure, is manufactured in the gut. So if you think of people who are struggling with depression and then you look at their diet, it's like you just aren't fostering the sort of bacteria that help create the serotonin. You know,
Exactly.
that's where the root of the depression would be.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to note that our microbiome is composed of trillions of fungi, bacteria, microbes, and they all play just a direct role in our health, just like you guys said. And all, like, you have a different microbiome than you have a different microbiome. It's based on our age, genetics, what we eat, how we exercise, just all our lifestyle factors, environment, like we were talking about. So
yeah, and that individual aspect of it too really beckons all of us to be more mindful of what foods and activities either make our bodies feel well or not well.
It's probably why it's such a big topic too, because we're all so different that it's all different.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You really you have to take the responsibility to understand your body by paying attention,
Supporting it.
And I think one of the last big topics of that is just our immune health. Like, how many of us deal with autoimmunity or just too many colds and flus and all these things. The really a huge percentage of our immune system lives in our gut, which I think if you just hear that, you might think that's strange. But then if you take a step back and look at how our bodies, from end to end, from the mouth to the anus is exposed to the outside world. And so it makes sense for there to be just a lining of immune tissue because it's constantly exposed to the outside world. Every time we eat, we breathe, we speak, we talk. So a lot of immune tissue. It's called the gut-associated lymphoid tissue is just all immune.
The GALTs is what I've heard it being called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just focusing, again, on that nutrient-dense whole foods, because we're feeding that good gut bacteria and not necessarily, feeding it with ultra-processed foods. Therefore, feeding that kind of unhealthy gut bacteria that we don't want to overgrow.
Exactly. And I also want to just make a point, because I love that you said unhealthy and not bad, because I think a lot of people think that they're good guys and bad guys, quote unquote, but really it's about having a balance and having a harmony between all of it.
We need Candida, we need H. pylori, we need Salmonella. We just need them in small, here and there. And I think it's another good point there with probiotic supplementation, which can be useful for people from time to time. But if you're getting outside, if you're eating whole organic produce, and you're getting the good prebiotics that feed the probiotics, there's not this need to spend all this money supplementing all the time. Although there's definitely a time and place for it. But
I was going to say that's probably where the bio-individualism comes in. Yeah. Where if you're someone that has a really susceptible gut microbiome, then maybe you do need some help.
Exactly.
But if you're strong and vigorous and you eat well, then maybe you don't need to supplement all the time. So getting with someone who knows is really helpful.
yeah.
Conversations around herbs have grown in popularity over the years. Can you tell us a little bit about what herbs are, what they do, and how we can incorporate them to better our health?
Well, I'm definitely going to leave this up to the herbalist over here.
Lovely.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that, even though you know lots, Karen. But
How much time you got?
yeah, as a certified herbalist, we've made our life's mission and passion around spreading the good word around herbs because they've been around much longer than us. Been around for thousands of years. They're tasty and they're delightful. They're great for upgrading your health, whether it comes to digestion or immunity or detox or circulation. And yeah, in every single continent, we've always had someone who's been taking herbs.
Yeah, I think one of our favorite herbalists always says this quote. His name's David Winston. He said, herbs are more popular today than ever, but herbalism, the practice of herbalism isn't, because we still can sometimes, because a lot of these herbal traditions have been lost, we still have the tendency to say, oh, I have a headache, what herb is good for that, without looking at the real magic of herbalism, which is like beckoning you to understand that the body is this whole mechanism, that you're not just having a headache because you need one herb. You're having a headache because something elsewhere is off. And herbs really teach us that because they represent thousands of plant compounds that all work together. And when you consume an herb like ginger, for example, it's not only reducing inflammation, it can help with headaches, it's also helping digestion, because a lot of times, guess what? We have headaches because we're having a sluggish digestion. And so they really teach us to see the body as a whole, which is why I love them so much and why they've helped me so much.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that herbs in whole form, especially in the right balance, can give us vitamins and minerals and a lot of the micronutrients that we talk about us lacking in our diet. And it's just such a nice little neat and often delicious form to be able to ingest that.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of herbs, because they're so common, we tend to discredit them as not being useful, but it really is kitchen medicine. I mean, rosemary has been used since ancient times to help with brain fog and to support bile flow. Cumin is an amazing carminative. Like a lot of the spices we cook with, they're not just a spice to make it taste good. They're really helping your body absorb the nutrients more, supporting digestion, doing all the things.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cheap and accessible and it's preventative and it kind of, promotes longevity.
I will say with a lot of, my clients or anyone who's just looking for tips for hydration, I'll tell them to drink an herbal tea to flavor their water, or, a lot in cooking techniques, like you mentioned, make food taste good instead of using salt or a lot of ultra processed spices. And so, I love herbs.
Yeah. Yeah, I love herbs. It's awesome.
So where would you recommend someone start if they are new to herbs and trying to incorporate them into their diets more?
I mean, I think there are so many resources available today because there is a growing interest in them. But personally, I would recommend that someone work directly with an herbalist or an acupuncturist, someone who's dedicated their lives to the study of herbs, who works directly with them, rather than just, getting on Google and doing all the online resources. There is an added component of working directly with plants that is very special to herbalists.
I also hear that there is a pretty good online course with some herbalists that we might know.
Maybe, yes.
And I think
That's a
that
good point.
that was the whole reason that we put Revitalize out there, was so that we could bring the herbal component to it. And also, as people who have worked really closely with herbs, who have relationships with them, whose lives have been personally changed and whose friends and family's lives have been changed by them, I think our whole goal and passion is just to try and give that as a resource to other people and make it really accessible. And when you find people, even if it's not us, that are also trying to do that in the same capacity, that's a good resource to start with. So there's lots of good books by other herbalists and even YouTube videos, online resources. But yeah, working with someone, being able to have questions and dialogue, I think is a great way to do it. And then also going out there and looking outside, touching an herb and being like, what is this? And
getting curious about your surroundings. There's a lot of local in-person plant walks, courses. It doesn't all have to be online. I mean, the online aspect is accessible, but yeah, just getting curious and
or even
asking questions.
What's in your kitchen? What does this turmeric do? And you actually might open your eyes to see wow, this this is a much bigger and more potent herb than what I originally thought it was, not just something that tastes good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say I have also taken Revitalize, and my favorite part was learning all about the herbs as well. So, and I have high hopes for you two to take me on a walk outside. So
Yes.
I can, you know, find
So
out
many
what
things.
some of the plants are. I'm excited.
Amazing.
100%.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the connection between stress and weight gain?
Yeah, I mean, definitely stress plays, you know, a role in our entire health. And so I think a lot of the times I see people use stress and kind of use it as an unhealthy habit, and therefore, you know, maybe consume alcohol or may consume, you know, unhealthy foods to kind of deal with their stress. And they're just eating empty calories, and therefore it's kind of contributing to that weight gain or just kind of plateau that they don't even realize.
The classic stress eating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're
We're trying to deal with like emotional stress and finding comfort in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've all heard of the like cortisol belly, which is just a classic, you know, sort of body type where our body will literally hold fat around our middle because that's where all of our most important organs are. And so when we're in this state of chronic stress, our bodies haven't yet caught up to modern times, so our bodies think we're starving. That's the biggest stressor to them. So I think a lot of people get very frustrated when they're trying to lose weight. They're trying to lose this belly, but no amount of cutting calories is going to make it go away. In fact, it might be causing it because that might be causing more stress. So for a lot of women, or a lot of individuals, and particularly women, I think addressing stress as part of a healthy lifestyle, like sometimes needs to come absolutely first, you know, even over diet and exercise.
Yeah, I mean, the stress hormones as well can move all the other hormones out of balance as well. And so, I mean, hunger cues, sleep, all the things that contribute to being able to lose weight in a healthy way can really be just thrown out the window if we're focusing our body's needs into creating cortisol and into creating stress hormones.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that maybe a part of that could also be learning how to calm the nervous system. I don't think that we really take a lot of time to understand. I think that's maybe why meditation and prayer and breath work and all of that is becoming more popular these days, because it does help to calm the nervous system. But then also introducing things that calm like your body's neural transmitting pathways, which is like fiber and beans, and being able to release some of those toxins which are also contributing to stress in the body.
Yeah, when your body senses something is off, it's just a negative feedback loop, which is, you know, one bad thing leads to like a million other bad things. So we really do have to keep things in check. But the good side of that is that when we're doing one thing right, a lot of other things go right too. But I think stress is one of those root things of train your body to be calm within the body through your mind, and also, you know, healthy habits, and that weight will start coming off if that's your goal.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's hard to recognize when we are stressed. And I mean, whether it's you can't be alone, or you can't get bored and you feel really uncomfortable, or you know, you're not digesting properly. There's lots of ways where we maybe think that we're de-stressing, but we're not. So that's probably a good way to start looking.
Yeah, I think when we're stressed, our body's in like an inflammatory state, and therefore, you know, like you said, eating well, but it's also sleeping, it's exercising, it's taking self-care, and so it's that whole kind of mental well-being as opposed, you know, the whole picture when it comes to stress. And
yeah, you got to look at all the pillars. Exactly. You can't just focus on nutrition and say, I'm eating so well, why is nothing happening? It's like, all right, you're not sleeping and you're living on coffee and, you know, wine. So yeah,
it's really difficult to be gentle to yourself in that period of time too. Yeah.
Can you share with us what each of your favorite ways to help cope and deal with stress is?
I think mine is, you know, making time in my calendar every day. Everyone is so, you know, calendar focused, or I'm definitely type A, and so if it's in my calendar, I'm going to take a walk every day.
Yeah,
to help de-stress and get away from my desk. And so that's my favorite thing to do.
Mine has just got to be dancing. I have to have dance breaks. And recently this has been a new thing. I've made a connection between when I am sad, I don't dance. And so if I'm sad or stressed, I have to kind of just make my body move to, you know, put on a good song. And it releases, I swear, it releases so many endorphins in me. It absolutely changes my mindset. These massive problems suddenly become so tiny and small. And I focus more on gratitude, the fact that I can dance, I can't listen to music, I'm alive. That's been my my stress hack recently?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been exercise, and not even just like exercise trying to get to a goal. It's just movement. And I think, I've been weightlifting more recently with my husband a bit, and doing something that's hard and something that's challenging, even if I'm throwing a fit the whole time, when I do it and then I rise to that challenge, I feel like, okay, I can do hard things. And I did it early in the morning, and now I can go do hard things the rest of my day. And like it feels less stressful, and I definitely get a lot of the energy out and like the angst out, and I feel like competent and capable.
Yeah, we're definitely meant to move. All of ours involved movements.
Yeah. Yeah, especially
Self-care, I think, right?
Yeah.
So
and sitting in front of a computer can be difficult to have movement. Sedentary is number one thing for stress, in my opinion.
Okay, we received some questions for the most common or popular health and wellness myths. Can you debunk them for us?
My favorite thing.
yes. So stomach acid is bad for you.
Wrong. I hate this misconception, because stomach acid is one of our most precious fluids we create, and a lot of times we're not creating enough of it, which is why we have heartburn. If we don't have enough stomach acid, then our body's unable to properly break down and burn through food, and so it'll come back up. And if our stomach acid isn't strong enough, the little valve that's triggered to stay shut will stay open. That's when you get the heartburn. And so many things in the modern world kill stomach acid: stress, caffeine, alcohol, constant snacking. So all of us probably have pretty insufficient.
And also, if you don't have the right amount of stomach acid and pH, then the other cascade of enzymes that happen in your pancreas and in your small intestine don't
get
the cascade doesn't happen. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
don't digest your food or assimilate it. Yeah. Stomach acid's good for you. That's why I say it.
Next. You want to read this one?
Sure. Fat is bad for you.
Oh, I love this one. So fat is not bad for you. In fact, it's an important macronutrient. It's essential for our overall health. Of course, there's healthy sources of fat and unhealthy sources of fat. We want to focus more on the healthy sources, but, having fat in our diets also helps us absorb those fat-soluble vitamins more efficiently and just, overall helps our health.
Yeah, the ones that we're also chronically deficient in: A, D, E,
and
K.
K, exactly.
Our sex hormone production. Yeah, especially for women. Yeah. It's, Good answer. All right, this will be the next one. All carbs and sugars are bad for you.
Oh my goodness. That is... I feel like I'm hearing this one a lot recently, and there's some trendy fad diets out there that are really promoting that as well, and it's so detrimental. There are some organs that want to use sugars and carbs as fuel instead of fat, because of course you can use fat and sugar as fuel, but sugars also nourish our gut bacteria, and of course we know the microbiome is so important, and it's a more efficient fuel sometimes. It requires less oxygen to process and to utilize as a fuel as what fat does. So
Yeah.
sugars are not bad, carbs are not bad, it's just all moderation.
Right, it's very short-sighted to just totally knock out an entire food group. It might work for a little bit, but long-term, our body requires all of it. And with all of the foods the naturally occurring foods that have the sugars and the carbohydrates in them, they also have so many vitamins and phytonutrients and fibers. So really stupid to knock them out.
I think, too, with the carbs, right, it's about the source of carbs. So
Exactly.
we have, again, like fats, unhealthy carbs, and healthier carbs. And so
It's pretty
everything in
reductionistic.
moderation, like you guys said. Exactly.
Yeah, reductionistic to take out a whole thing. But whole foods will keep you going in the right direction for sure. Yeah. There's one, bloating is normal.
Yeah.
This is a touchy one.
It is a touchy one.
Because I believe it has been normalized on social media these days, like certain supplements coming out to be like, oh, take this pill and your bloating goes away. If you are someone who's bloating, that's a sign that you probably have something upstream of your digestion that's not working right. Going back to that previous question, if we're not making enough stomach acid, we're not getting the cues to break down the enzymes, and the bloating is just a result of undigested foodstuffs passing into your colon and then causing the bloat to occur as the bad bacteria have a heyday eating whatever goodies they got. So
yeah, just causing dysbiosis. Yeah, and I think also it could be an indication that you're highly stressed, because exactly what you're saying, if you're highly stressed, you're not creating that stomach acid. But I think that there should be a little bit of delineation here where it's normal to have a little bit of bloating after you eat, but on Instagram I'm seeing some people that are influencers going from like being totally flat, and I don't know if they're sucking in, but then looking like several months pregnant potentially, you know, like about to give birth any day, and that is not normal.
Well, and also too, I mean, leaky gut is so prevalent these days. Gut permeability is when the tight junctions in our gut open up a little bit and let unwanted sort of compounds and bacteria happen, and so that triggers an inflammatory response that causes the swelling and the bloating as well. And I think, again, the gut permeability is a result of just not having a strong digestion, not eating the right food. So
yeah, so we're not shaming anyone for having bloating, but also it could be an indication, like, don't not listen to your body.
An indication, that a food you're consuming might be causing you some harm.
Yeah. What's the next one on there?
Everyone needs probiotics.
It's another good.
What do you guys think about this? I mean, in my opinion, I think it just depends on, past health issues, medical conditions. I think for probiotics, there's a time and a place, but
for sure.
I don't think people realize we can get probiotics from foods.
Yeah.
Eat a healthy source of prebiotics, which help feed the good, probiotics. And so...
some people might just be wasting their money getting the latest, greatest probiotic, when in actuality, you only have so much space in your gut for bacteria to be. So if you're probably pooping out a lot of the probiotics that you're paying a lot of money for. So working with a practitioner who can direct you in the right direction, or getting testing. I mean, there's a lot of great functional labs these days that can tell you, hey, you've got an overgrowth of this, H. pylori and not enough of lactobacillus, take this supplement. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, too, with the probiotics, like you mentioned, I think it's important to note that they do flush out of your system literally the next day. So it's either something you consistently have to take, or it's for a specific purpose. But other than that, again, there is a time and a place, but I think just healthy overall eating in general is where we should all start. Fiber.
The baseline.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say is perhaps before going to probiotics, maybe start small and start baby steps by cleaning up your diet, eating foods like apple pectin and, red colored foods that are going to supply food to a healthy, beneficial biome. And then perhaps if you're still having issues, perhaps if you got on antibiotics or something, if you feel like dysbiosis is happening, then maybe look at probiotics. But going straight there is not always the plan. It could actually lead to dysbiosis in the long term.
Yeah. All right, the next one. Low-calorie diets are healthier.
Oh, gosh. Are we still talking about this, though? Like, it's 2024, or, it's this day and age. And I feel like there was a huge fad a long time ago where it was like, the less you eat, the better, the thinner, the skinnier, the healthier you are. But, that's just not it.
No, there's nothing more stressful to the body than operating in a caloric deficit.
You mean starvation?
It's starvation, which is one of the greatest threats to the human body. And so the amount of stress hormones that we have to create in order to tell our body that it's all going to be okay, it's just not sustainable. And you're going to end up having a worse body composition, a higher fat mass, because your body wants to hold on to fat to protect your organs. So low cal is not the way to go. The way to go is good nutrient dense foods, balanced diets, getting carbohydrates, proteins, and fats at every meal, and just not eating to excess. Your body tells you when you're full. If you eat slow, chew your food thoroughly, you'll get the cues. I think a lot of people overeat and go through this hypercaloric, hypocaloric state because they just eat so fast and they feel sick and they say, I'm going to starve myself tomorrow. It's just not the way.
I was going to say, Karen's also a nutritionist. I'm sure she has a lot of...
No, I definitely agree with everything you guys are saying. A lot of people do think the lower calorie, the more they're going to lose weight, or they come, and they're like, I just can't. I'm already eating only 1,400 calories a day. Should I go lower? And it's like, no one should ever go below 1,200 calories a day. There's no way you're going to get all the vitamins and minerals and macronutrients that you need to just be healthy. And so... low-calorie diet. Actually, a lot of times people need to eat more. They're not eating enough, and so they just need to eat more calories, and they're actually then going to lose weight.
Yeah.
So,
and I think also perhaps people are thinking only about calories and they're not thinking about the quality of
Right,
calories. I mean,
exactly.
getting to a high calorie while you're eating whole foods can actually be kind of difficult because a lot of it is like fruits and veggies, and they're not really calorie dense, but they're nutrient dense, which is the goal. Let's
Along
see.
that same vein, can y'all talk about protein intake as it involves that? Like if people are wanting to lose weight and they maybe are operating on a lower calorie diet, how should protein be involved with that?
I mean, simultaneous muscle growth and fat loss is really hard to do. You kind of have to be holding hands with a nutritionist to balance out your macronutrients. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think a healthy way to go about it is to first establish your protein intake and then build in your carbohydrates and fats beyond that if your goal is to lose weight without jeopardizing, your immune health, the muscle content that you already have, and aiming for at least 1.2 grams per kilogram of protein.
I definitely agree with that. And I think it's just a fine line between having enough calories, but also having enough protein in order to build muscle and lose fat. You have to do the both, right? And just having that consistent intake throughout the day. A lot of times people think they can, overconsume a protein meal at dinner and not eat, a good protein source for breakfast or for lunch. And I think that consistent, high quality protein intake is important.
Yeah, I mean, protein is composed of amino acids, and you need amino acids not just to build your muscles, but also like your neurotransmitters. I mean, everything needs amino acids. Your DNA.
Even your gut, everything does, So,
All right. Do you want to read this one?
Sure. Thin equals healthy. I guess it kind of goes into the last one, but here we are talking about it here again.
I think, our bodies are composed, right, of muscle mass, fat mass, water mass. And so a lot of the times someone can be thin, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're healthy. They may have a high body fat percentage that's not high visceral fat, which is, our kind of stomach or around our mid areas that's larger than what's recommended and still puts them at a higher risk for like a chronic condition or just being unhealthy in general.
Right. Yeah. I think, to your point, like strong and adaptable, resilient, strong immune system, that equals healthy. We just have been, in the last few decades, it has been very pro thinness as a marker of health, and we just need to bust that myth to pieces because it's detrimental to one's psychological health too if they just have a different body shape. And it doesn't promote that sort of resiliency and vibrancy that only comes when you're consuming enough calories and, getting all the whole foods and all the good fats and proteins.
Yeah, and I think it's such a opinionated stance too. Like, what is constituted as thin?
Right.
And
It's a moving target.
Exactly, and who gets to say that? And I think that because it's a moving target, if you feel like, oh, I finally have gotten to be thin, and then it's like, oh, but I could be thinner, it could be thinner, it could be thinner. And then, eating disorders can happen. It could be really hard. And I think that, I mean, people have, like you said, bones, muscle, water, fat, all of it, but our bones require a certain amount of structure and muscle and fat and water in order to, like, keep our bodies strong and vibrant. And there's kind of like a minimum weight, and sometimes that looks different on different people. Oh, this is a good one. I like this one.
It's the perfect diet does exist. Or the perfect diet exists.
No. The perfect diet doesn't exist. I think it's a big misnomer, and I think maybe even us in the wellness and health field, we have been talking a lot about whole foods and that kind of stuff here, but every person is different. Everybody has a different gut microbiome. Everybody has a different, body and
Lifestyle.
Genetics, all that plays a role.
Yeah, and I think even it's just highly reductionistic, like a lot of things in the health world that ultimately are corrosive to one's understanding of what health is. I think even within an individual, your diet changes. The perfect diet might exist for you for a certain period of time, but as your bodies change, as your needs change, your lifestyle changes, so too will your diet. And
like your needs for nourishment.
Yeah. So no, the perfect diet does not exist.
Yeah. I think maybe the only whisper of a perfect diet would be you being able to be in touch with your body to understand, oh, is this food contributing to health, or is it draining energy? And maybe the perfect diet can only exist for you once you understand that
Once
relationship.
both of those are there,
Yeah.
I think it's
a
important,
personal quest.
to note, like you guys were saying, that, you know, every kind of diet out there, they all have commonalities, right?
Yeah.
What are they? Physical activity, self-care, get good sleep,
Stress reduction.
stress reductions, you know, eat whole foods.
Yeah.
Make sure your nutrients are coming from all food groups. And so
You make it sound so simple.
I know, it
it's
is,
not
right?
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
not,
a lot
so,
to juggle. Yeah, but
work, you know, families, all that play a role. So
Yeah.
it's definitely individualized for
Yeah.
sure.